your strength and show me your weakness. We're in this together now. We're in this together now. Give me your love and tell me your secrets. 'Cause we're in this together now. Yeah, we're in this together now. No, 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 no. I'll keep you safe, I'll give you my everything. Even if we're falling down, even if we're falling down, all of me is yours, every part of me. 'Cause we're in this together now. You and me together now. What's the point of living if we're scared to lose each other? What's the point of living without you? Tell me now and I'll stop fighting. Tell me now and I'll stop breathing. I don't want to be here without you. Without you. Without you. Without you. Without you. No, 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 no. I'll be your light, I'll keep you from darkness. Even when the sun don't shine, even when the sun don't shine. Give me your strength, show me your weakness. 'Cause we're in this together now. You and me together now. What's the point of living if we're scared to lose each other? What's the point of living without you? Tell me now and I'll stop fighting. Tell me now and I'll stop breathing. I don't want to be here without you. Without you. Without you. Without you. Without you.
Yoo-hoo! We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you... I've got to wait for these to burn down now. You guys are going to think, what the hell is this guy on? Ooh, it's nearly done. Ooh. Do you like the hat? Hang on, I'm going to take the hat thing off. Do you like my hat? I think it looks very, very sexy. What do you think? Oh boy, I'm going to get rid of this. Hang on. So, good morning, everyone. I'm going to take this off in a second because I don't even know if it's keeping me in focus because it's looking at this hat. Do you like it? This is like Christmas Day for me. I've been so excited since last night. I mean, I was checking out once that video got released, that pre-release one, it was unbelievable. Oh, it's got to go. Oh, boy. So welcome everyone. We just did a little bit of pre-show first to start off with today. I'm going to, let me just delete this so I can get that out the way and save some memory on this computer. How exciting has the release of the A7S been? It has just been unbelievable, and I'm really excited about it. I mean, look, as a fusion shooter, it doesn't meet my needs in some ways, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. I'm not saying I won't buy this camera, I may, but I am to sort of say what I'm thinking at this stage. I'm definitely going to wait for the A7 IV before I make a decision about which camera I'm going to get, and then I'm going to decide which one I'll get out of the two. So I'll definitely get one or the other. At the moment, I'm not in any hurry because with the lockdown that we're all in with the virus, I haven't got any work now. Probably, I think I've still got one wedding that may happen in October, but I've got a feeling it's going to be cancelled due to the virus. So I'm probably not going to have any work for this year. Now, I have started to book weddings for next year though, so hopefully everything's back to normal then and it will run. That will then give me the opportunity to hopefully make a decision about whether I go with the A7S III or the A7 IV. Depending on what happens with that, I might go for the A7 IV, but I'll talk about that more at the end of the show today. I want to concentrate on the A7S III because I think Sony really have done everything I've asked for or expected, apart from probably the monitor resolution that I'll talk about a little bit later on. But overall, it's just an incredible release, and I think Sony have done a great service to the Sony users out there. I think the camera is going to meet... Videographers are going to be drooling over this camera, and they really will. If you are not really wanting a sort of hybrid type camera, this is going to be incredible. But before we start, let me just check with the chat. I'm just going to have to alter this window. Let me move this over the way. Drag that out a little bit. I just want to say hello to people that are in the group, and then we're going to go through all of the things that people are saying about the camera and stuff like that as well. So let me just go back to the top. I'll have to refresh this screen. All right, so let's see who's here. So Phil Whittimer Film says, I haven't slept much. I know, look, I was a little bit like that last night too. I was that excited. I couldn't wait to see what was there. Let me put my watch on silent too. Let me put that on. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't wait to see what the specs were, and it was leaked last night, which was really funny because I watched that leaked video and I thought, oh, but poor guy, because it was probably on NDA, and I don't know how it's happened, but it was certainly an interesting leak. So we did sort of know everything that came out. In fact, I didn't even really need to stay up because I'd already seen that. I did a couple of videos yesterday talking about the full specs and everything as well. But yeah, I've been excited too, Phil. George said, greeting from New Jersey. Love what Sony did with the A7S III. Can't wait for the A7 IV. I hear Jared Polin is still waiting for his Canon R5 to cool down, and I'll talk about that when we're going through some of the things that we mention later. Matthew said, I like the A7S a lot more than I thought I would, but I'm not going to get one. I'm waiting for the A7 IV. Jamie said, howdy, all from northern New South Wales. How's things in your area, David? Friends of mine in Melbourne are already going stir crazy. Yeah, Melbourne is in lockdown. I'm outside that zone though, so I'm not in lockdown, so I'm fine. I can do whatever I like. So I'm just lucky. I'm out of the lock zone by probably 15 kilometres, so I was very close to it, but we're outside of it, so it's okay for us. Phil said, just in a couple of YouTubers say the A7 heat problems too, like Hugh Brownstone. Yeah, and I've got a feeling that these may be perhaps inconsistencies with, remember you're talking about beta firmware with these cameras, Phil. Others have mentioned no overheating problems at all. Peter Lindgren, who I spoke to last night, actually, I was having a chat with Peter last night. Peter's a fantastic bloke. I think I'm going to have a live with Peter maybe next week. Peter was saying no matter what he did, he couldn't get the camera to overheat. I noticed Tony Northrup said no matter what he couldn't do, he couldn't get the over camera to heat. Jared Polin basically said the same thing. Others, I'm also wondering whether others have not set the camera correctly, because it does have that feature in the Sony cameras where you press the button. It's one of the menus where you can say you allow it to get hotter. And I'm wondering whether those people that had the overheating issues never put that setting on. I've now put that on all of my cameras and I never have an issue with it. So it could be that they're not setting their cameras up correctly, Phil. So I would wait for that at this stage. ZV1's here as well. Digital Film Review said, yes, it has overheating even at 24, only 23 minutes of shooting. And like I said, I've got a feeling that they didn't set that camera up correctly. Jeff said, hello, David. Thank you for caring about your audience. I appreciate all your hard work and sharing what you've learned with me. Best wishes to you. Thank you so much, Jeff. The Essential Light said, I bet the A7 IV will have 4K 60. I'm sure the A7 IV will have that, and I'll talk about that when we sum up today. Alexander said, morning, David. Chilly here in Melbourne. Hate the winter. Lucky for me, I'm getting the R5 this week. I think it will be the world's first hybrid photos and indoor heater. The heating in that camera is not good, Alexander. I mean, look, it's a great camera if you can work around that overheating. It's fantastic. But if you watch Jared Polin's review, the overheating was not good at all. Oh, thanks, Kerry. Kerry's just bringing in milk coffee. Yeah, so thanks, Lum. Yeah, so it wasn't good at all, actually, the overheating in that. Look, it's not really the fact that it overheats, but it's the time that it takes to recover after the heating. What was his video? I think he shot for an hour and he couldn't use it again in that whole hour once it shot down at 27 minutes. So that's a real problem with that, and I don't know how they're going to solve that, but I did hear that there's a rumor going around that Canon are going to release a lens adapter that will have cooling in it. So it must have some sort of fan or something in it that can extract the hot air out. I have heard of that, which may help. So, yeah, there's some interesting things about it. It looks like from the reviews that are out there, though, that the quality of the Canon cameras tends to be still a fraction better because it's 8K sample down. Who else was it that I saw this morning? It might have been Tony Northrup showed the R5 as having, the R6 as having slightly better footage. But when I say slightly, you're dealing here with pixel peeping. You could only see that difference when he blew the text up, and you could see that it was really, the R6 was a fraction sharper. The average viewer that's looking at the footage normally are not going to be able to tell the difference. And I would prefer to have a camera that didn't overheat, which seems to be the case with the Sony cameras. I would prefer to have that any day than a camera that might be a fraction sharper that's got that potential to overheat all the time. So yeah, it's an issue that's there. But I think the A7 IV will have 4K 60. Yes, I agree. What else? Phil also said he didn't say in his weird sit-down talk like a school teacher. I'm not sure who that reviewer was, Phil. He put the temperature of the S3 on the high setting. Yeah, I'm not sure. That could be the issue. They may not have put those temperatures on the high setting. G'day, Mark. How are you? Colin said, hi from sunny COVID-free Cairns. Palio says, good morning from Vietnam. Hi, how are you? The Essential Light said, notice Peter McKinnon didn't post a video about it. He's a total Canon fanboy. I wouldn't expect him to. He's a Canon ambassador, so I wouldn't expect a video from Peter about it at all. You'll probably find that they won't mention it. Scissorman said, hey, from COVID-infested Florida. Mark said, will this be the camera that causes division between photographers and videographers? Well, I don't think so, Mark. I mean, I think Sony have marketed this as being more of a video type camera. Look, and I'm going to be totally honest with you, and this is why I'm not going to purchase the camera, well, apart from the fact I've got no work at the moment. But even if I was working at the moment, I think I'd still wait for me to see what the R4 has, what the A7 IV has, because I really shoot more fusion. If I was a videographer, I would buy this in a heartbeat. That's why Peter said to me he's ordered it. Who else said that they've ordered two? I can't remember. I think it was, I can't remember, but someone else said they've ordered two of them. If you're a full-on videographer, it's a no-brains at all to get this camera. I mean, it really isn't, because I think it's by far the best of its camera that's out there. If you're talking about the low-light beast, well, this camera is it. It's got every single thing that you need. It's got amazing autofocus. It's probably not going to overheat in normal usage at all. Like I said, Tony couldn't get it to overheat. Peter Lindgren couldn't get it to overheat. And, you know, they've said they tried and it just didn't overheat. And I think they've set their camera up correctly. I think the people that are having issues probably didn't, or it might be a bug with those cameras. Remember, it's pre-release cameras. Sony have mentioned that there's going to be no overheating in this camera, so I wouldn't expect there to be overheating in this camera. But it's the same as I've said to all of you. Wait for, if you're worried about it, wait for real world reviews that are out there that are not sponsored. Now, Peter, I fully trust, because Peter Lindgren is not a Canon ambassador at all, and he would tell the truth. But some others that may be out there, that, you know, ambassadors and stuff, are paid by Sony, so it's like everything else, that they've got to toe the line. But I wouldn't expect this camera to overheat when Sony have made such a big statement about it overheating. Canon were very upfront about it right from the beginning, talking about, they brought all the documentation out, talking about the heating and everything and all the problems that were there. Sony haven't done that at all. So I would expect the release versions of these cameras to not have a problem with overheating. Let's keep going. But the division, I don't think will be there. It's probably like it always was with the A7S mark. The A7S was never touted as a stills camera. It was always touted as a videography camera, and I think that's still the same. At the moment, if you need a fusion type camera, really the best one you can get out there is the a7 III or the a7R4. I mean, they're the two cameras that you would get at the moment if you want fusion. I'm talking about on the Sony side. If you're from Canon, well, you already have it because you've got the R6. I mean, it's different. This is why Sony have to answer the R6, and they will with an R4. It's just a matter of waiting, and I would not be surprised one little bit to see that camera released before Christmas. So let's keep going down about what's going on down here. Run with Scissors said good times. Jeffrey said morning, David. Mike said hi, gang. Hero said laugh out loud. Oh, he's talking about the virus. Digital Film Review said actually it overheated before the Canon R5 in Dan Watson's video. Yeah, I think there may be issues with that firmware that they've got, or they're not setting it correctly. Leslie said, hi, David, and all. Looking forward to the specifications of the A7S III. Altric's here as well. G'day, Altric. Digital Film said, seems to have a problem in direct sunlight. Well, I think it was Tony Northrup that was showing it being shot outside, or I can't remember. It was someone. It was 90-odd degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit, I mean. Not Celsius. Fahrenheit, and it didn't overheat. So, yeah. Chris said, just ordered 5 new Sony. Wow. Run with Scissors said, this camera better have a flippy cup holder. Paulo said, the R5 can bake cookies, though. I love it. Scissorman said, digital film reviews. I think Dan's test camera had some tech issues. He said that Sony was sending him a new one. Yeah, look, I would, like I said, remember, this is all pre-release cameras that these people have had. There could be problems with those cameras, and I think you're finding, if there was the overheating issue, they would all overheat. But when you're looking at, like I said, the people that I've mentioned, Jared, Peter Lindgren, Tony Northrup, none of them mentioning overheating no matter what they did. I don't think there's going to be an overheating problem. Jamie said, Scissorman, digital film reviews, pre-production models, yep. Mr. YouTuber said, great news for all you full-time YouTubers, 12 megapixel Monas, just don't get it. Yep. Remember too, 12 megapixels is ample if you're dealing with a filmic type camera. It's great for, say, shooting to YouTube. It's great for shooting for Instagram. It's great for, say, shooting stills that you're going to incorporate in your video, like the one I showed you at the beginning with Kiara. If you were grabbing sort of stills from that, it would be fantastic. It's just not really there if you want to blow an image up really large, or if you like to crop in camera. Remember, I used to shoot weddings with a D3S, which was 12 megapixels. At the time, though, that's all that was really available. That was sort of it at that time. So I worked around it. Now, at that time, I just made sure that I never cropped in camera, or even in post. I would have to make sure the cropping was correct at that time. So look, it's not ideal, and it's not really a true stills camera. And I have to state that to you, that if you're after a stills hybrid type camera, this is not for you. But if you're after the ultimate type of video camera that will work in almost any conditions, like I'm talking about without heating problems, in low light scenarios, great focus, amazing codecs that you can actually edit, which I'll talk about later. There are still some issues, but I will talk about that later. It's going to be fantastic. Also, it will back up the video to both cards. That's a massive thing, which you can't do on the Canons. So there's some real high-end features in this camera that they've answered, but I'll talk more about that as we go through the actual specifications and stuff shortly, once I get through this little chat here. Hello, Carol. Good to see you here as well. Cubio's here as well. I pre-ordered the A7S already. Congratulations. Guy with the camera said, lock tested 4K 120 for 47 minutes in 90-degree weather. Bonus, Max states that the 4K 120 overheating only needs 1 minute to cool off for another 15 minutes. And see, this is the difference that I'm talking about. That if you look at Jared Polin's video that he had on this morning, it was crazy. It shot down after 25 minutes and he couldn't use it again. That is not good at all. And I've heard of people, I've been now following it over the last couple of weeks, and I've heard now of people saying that they're using it in still mode outside. This is the R5. They were shooting stills for an hour, and then they went to turn video on and they couldn't use the video because the camera had overheated. So even when you're using stills, you're getting an issue. So there are some huge issues with the Canon. I'm not bagging the Canon. I think if you've got it and you can work around it, it's fantastic. But I think the A7S is in a different league if you're working with a camera that's not going to overheat. It used to be a nightmare when we had the Sony cameras that had the overheating. I had to work around that. Now, thankfully, I don't have that problem anymore with the A7 III and the A9. And it certainly looks like the A7S III is going to be even better. Tasm said, David, I bet you're going to buy this camera now. No, I'm not, Tasm, but I will get one of them. I will definitely get the A7 III, A7S III, or the A7 IV. It just depends on which one I get. I may get both. It just depends. Brett's also here. G'day, Brett. Good morning. Still beaming late night for the A7S III, and we did a live pre-show. Oh, you did one too last night, Brett, did you? Rick said, hey all, cloudy and hot in Brooklyn, New Jersey. Guy with the camera said, oh, he's laughing now. I think it's just hit the point where I've got my Christmas hat on. Guy with the camera, Christmas for grown men. Jeffrey said he's on Milo. I love it. I'm drinking coffee actually today. David's lost the plot. Is that just a Santa hat? I love it. Did you tell your wife you bought the A7S III? No, the funny thing was, I was looking at the camera last night and she gave me the eyes. You know, the eyes that you get? So she did give me the eyes. But like I said, there's no way I'll be getting this before Christmas. But I will get one of them, that's for sure. I need to replace my other cameras that I sold, so I definitely need to get one. Lemonk said, or more importantly, what the heck is this guy smoking? I love it. Hugh Brown got only 23 minutes. I think that's a problem with that camera, though, I would say for sure. Palio said, good morning from Vietnam. Carl's also saying, Christmas room, laugh out loud. William said, hi, David. Great to catch a live show. Love your introduction videos, Billy. Thanks, Billy. T-Light said, suits you, David. Mike's also here. Ike's here as well. G'day, Ike. So how many did you order? None yet, but it will probably get one eventually. Hero said, greetings, A7S III. You know, the sad thing is, and I have to say this is sad, if this camera had come out before the virus had hit, I would have bought one immediately. Because at that time, my business was doing fantastic, and I had the money there. And like everything else now, I've got to be careful about how much I spend. So if this was earlier in the year, I would have bought this in a heartbeat. Brunswick says, Northrup said, camera conspiracies is going to roast you. Yeah, probably. I love Casey though. Casey's a crack up. Oops. Where were we? I just want to go through these before we go through some of the things. I've got a stack to show you in specs and even some little videos to play from the other guys. I hope they don't mind me showing some, but where were we? Let me just scroll back a little bit. Oh, here we were, I think. Zoet said, guy with a camera, even at 4K 120, some couldn't get it to overheat in about an hour. Yeah, this is why I think that the problem is with the ones that overheated, had issues with their cameras. They may have been faulty. They might not have set the cameras up correctly. You know how you have that overheating button done. I think if they overheated, they would all overheat. So, yeah, I don't think the heating is going to be an issue, guys. Dan Watson said on his video that he didn't activate the heat setting on his A7S III and it overheated. Yep, there you go. I think that's probably what's happened. I think that you're going to find that the people that have had the overheating issues on this camera didn't activate that setting, which is I always activate that settings on all the Sony cameras I've got. D said, as a video camera, the specs of the A7S III are impressive, and I'm going to go through those soon. Sony did a great job choosing the sensor size for 4K. They did, exactly. Hangs for Fun said, hi, Kerry. She ran out. She said, don't you dare show me. I just ran to my computer like I was trying to tune into a TV show. I regret every time I miss it. Who is going to use the 4K 120 for 45 minutes? And that's exactly true. Most of the people that are going to use this are going to use it for 4K 60, which is what I would use it at. But the other thing you've got to understand here too is that the 1080p footage on this A7S camera is way better than what you're getting on something like the A7S. The A7 III. The problem with the A7 III, it's downsampled from 6K, so you have to have it downsampled. So there's a loss of quality when it does that. The 12 megapixel sensor, you don't have that problem anymore. So the 1080p footage is incredible on the A7S III. So you're going to get much nicer footage if you shoot 1080p. And that's important. I've always thought that the 1080p footage on the A7 III is a little bit soft, and it is a little bit soft. It's like also the A6400 at 1080p is a little bit soft as well. You're not going to have that issue now. So if you shoot 1080p on the A7S III, it's going to be stunning footage. So you're winning all the way through. It's going to have an incredible 4K footage. You've got that ability to shoot 4K 60, 4K 120 when you really need to. Like I said, you would only shoot that occasionally, but you know it's all there. Yeah, God bless Kerry. Yeah, I know. G'day, Steve. How are you? Chris said it looks like it's a great camera. People who have no concern for storage, yeah, if you're going to shoot that 4K 120, also editing may be an issue as well. 1 minute to recover the A7S overheating with a passive cooling for another 15 minutes. Would like to see a test of the internals of the R5 and the A7 III to see if both get as hot as each other and if Sony is just not activating the heat shutdown. Yeah, that would be interesting to see if that is the case. Colin's already gone to bed. Good night, everyone. Big improvement for Sony. Brett said Canon could have been told to call back the R5 and fix it. Langston said thumbs up. Yeah, thanks, guys. I would really appreciate a thumbs up too if you could give me one. Philip Bloom's A7S III video looks great. I always check Philip Bloom's video, so I will check that today. I love watching Philip's video, usually very filmic, so we'll check that. I haven't had the time yet to do it. Brett said, sorry if it's been covered, but 3 blind men and an elephant had it overheat on 24p outside in 20 minutes. I think he's either got a faulty camera, Brett, or he didn't turn the overheating warning thing off. Let me just keep scrolling down because I want to get started in what's there. So let me just keep going down, and I think I'm just going to keep going. Let me have a quick look. Ike said, okay, back. Just got off a call with a potential 2021 wedding client. Of course, you know I'm a real working photographer. Unlike some of these YouTube chucks. Me too, Ike. I'm exactly the same as you, mate. What else? I wonder if the Blackmagic Assist HDR will work with the A7S III. That way you can capture in B-RAW. I've got no idea. Ike, you're going to get me fired from a moderator. What's he done? Oh, I love it. It still won't be an A9 III IM to Brown. What was that about? I'm not sure. Well, I think we better get started anyway. We're going to be here for 5 hours. IM to Brown said, first quarter 2021 is going to be a fruit year for David O, so he'll have the money to buy the A7S and the A7 IV. Hopefully, that's what I would love to do, for sure. If I could do that, IM to Brown, that's definitely what I would be getting. Ike said, although I honestly still like what the R5 has to offer outside of overheating, the R5 still a more compelling camera, in my opinion. All right, so let's go. All right, let me just start the show and we're going to get stuck into it.
If you're looking for some crazy, I'll tell you everybody's standing in a line for the water slide. You can come on over, we can take the roller coaster. And you know everybody's looking for a ride in the water slide.
Oh, I went blank there. I was watching the wrong video. How are we, everyone? Thank you for joining us today. We just had a little bit of a pre-show. I will stick down in the comment box down below, the box below the timeline. So if you don't want to watch everything, you don't have to. So I'll stick that down there as well. So let's go. So I want to start talking. I'm just going to show you first some specs. Now, I've found a couple of interesting sites because with B&H, you've got a whole list too of like a frequently asked questions, and I'm going to take you through that too because it answers a lot of questions about this camera, which I thought would be brilliant that I could take you through, and I'll go through that as well. We're back again, I think. And I'm going to show you first. Let me bring up this because I'm going to bring up, where were we? Let me bring up this. Now, the thing I'm going to start showing you is I'm just going to go through some of the features that this camera has. This is from the Sony Alpha site, so it's from Sony. I did notice here the price is $5,999, so it's going to cost me $6,000 if I want to get this camera. God, I hate the Australian dollar at the moment. It's just terrible. So let's have a look at this camera. Basically, if you look at it, it's got the same body as the A7 IV. Now, I'm not sure whether it is a little bit of a larger body. We don't know yet. I haven't seen the dimensions. It might be mentioned down the bottom. If anyone in the live chat can answer that, it would be great, because people have asked me if it will take the same grip as the A7 IV, and I'm not sure whether it's exactly the same. We'll have to wait and see whether it is the same body yet. I haven't heard that yet. It's 4K 120p, it goes up to NTSC, and it's 100p PAL, obviously. It does have 422 10-bit all-I, and you can use that for every single video format that's in there, so that's really quite powerful. The ISO goes from 40 to 409,600, and I'll talk about this more later in the Q&A part, which I'll show you in that frequently asked questions part as well. It is there you go, so it's a millimeter wider, so the grip probably won't fit. And it's obviously got this new Bions Z XR processor that you see down here. It's saying that the large pixels, it's a 12.1 megapixel backside illuminated sensor. So that's why I think in the end you'll get better quality than what the Canon have given you, particularly with low light. Because it's got this backside illuminated sensor. I think Sony have done the right thing here. The other thing that this gives you as well is it gives you the ability to, so you're not going to have to grab all of that data through the whole camera, which causes heat. I'm just seeing here if someone says, Sony shows the A7R grip as one of the, oh, well, there you go. So it does fit it then. Oh, thanks, Matt. Thanks for showing me that. So I think it was probably a good decision in this to make it a 12 megapixel camera, because remember they're touting this as a video camera, not as just a stills camera. So it's not really a true fusion type camera, I don't believe. It's got the ability to shoot stills, but the stills side is a little bit of a problem because you're only sort of sitting with 12 megapixels. It would probably give you wonderful star images if you're doing astro type work, though, particularly with the EVF that I'll show you a little bit later. So I think they made the right choice here. I think they made the right choice about going with a 12 megapixel. It gives you unbelievable low light, which we've seen if you've watched any of the reviews so far, and it also stops having to push so much data through that camera, which causes heat. And it's also going to make amazing AF because it doesn't have to move all those pixels around to get incredible AF. It's giving you 15 stops of dynamic range. It's got reduced rolling shutter. Now, that's also been shown in a number of reviews that I've seen out there. The rolling shutter is almost non-existent. So they really have upped that as well. And that's one reason why you would sort of think about buying this camera alone. The processor, they're saying, is 8 times more powerful than the previous processor. Now, they're talking about the A7S2 there, so you would expect that to be the case. But it is way more powerful than what the A7S2 has. And they're saying it's basically got 8 times more processing power, which is giving that ability to keep the camera probably cool. It's also giving you the ability to shoot your 4K 120 in these really high bit depths that you've got there as well, with minimal overheating. And it's also improved the AF. It's saying down here too, stunning AF performance even at 4K 120. Now, that is terrific in itself. So they're giving you full autofocus the whole way through with tracking and everything else. It's saying here that the AF has astonishing detail in both space and time, and stunning 4K movies even at 120 frames per second or in slow motion, with the resolution and depth of field only possible a full frame sensor can give you. So the beauty here is it also captures audio at that resolution as well. Now, I did talk to you all about this, that it's great to have that as a backup in case if one of your other cameras has a failure or something and you're getting audio from all your cameras, at least you can use the audio from this at 120 if you need to. Someone just said Manny showed portraits to see if it was good as a photo camera. Look, Lama, I'm not saying that you can't take great images from this. You can. The issue is, if you use this as a camera and then they want to get a massive poster out of this, you could be in trouble because of resolution, and it's just something that you've got to think about. It's not really the ideal. Don't please, and I'm just saying to you this: do not buy this camera if you want it as a photographic camera. Buy the A7 III or the A7R4. If you're a photographer only, I would definitely recommend those cameras. If you are a fusion type camera that needs good stills and also video, this still isn't really the camera for you. This is more tailored for the videographer. Yes, it will take stills, but the stills are going to be compromised compared to what you get with an A7 III or an A7R4, and that's something that you do have to consider. If you're a videographer, it is just a no-brainer. You would jump on this immediately. If you want a fusion type camera, wait for the R4. Wait for the A7 IV. What else? Renowned sensitivity. This is the other thing. You are going to get, this will be the low light king for sure, for low light. And everything I've seen so far in the reviews just backs it up. It basically can see in the complete blackness. It's unbelievable. And, you know, they've even made it better. They've made this one stop better than the A7S2. And the A7S2, which I had, was incredible. Now, they've given this a stop better light performance than that. It is unbelievable. I just could not wait to play with this, and I hope I can get my hands on one. I'm hoping someone that's near me in Australia gets one, so that we can go together and we can do a shoot together and I can do a full review of it, because I'd love to have a play with this thing. The low light just must be unbelievable. Powerful focus control for solo shooters. It looks like the focusing that they've got in this is amazing. The rack focusing that I've seen on this looks beautiful. It has a low light autofocusing down to -6 EV, so it's basically matched what the Canons have, which I thought was incredible. The AF, the animal eye AF, has been improved. It now focuses much further away, and it also, I believe, the animal eye autofocus has been improved as well. And you would expect that. It's a much newer camera, and these are going to get better and better as we go along. But it looks like the autofocus is superb. Even to be able to rack focus while you're recording in, say, 4K 120, you can just rack touching on the screen is incredible. The dual card slots, what a brilliant idea this was. You're able to use the new CF Express A type cards, which, just to show you here too, have been announced now on Sony Alpha Rumors. It's been announced now, I think, on B&H too, that you can get them now. This is the 160 gigabyte card, which is for $398. So you can now buy these. I think they're on pre-order. They're going to be released, I believe, as soon as the camera is released. So they are now already there. There's up to 600 megabits per second write speed, 800 megabits per second read speed. They're not cheap, but there's a whole article that talks about this here. And I'll leave all these links down below, so if you are interested in getting this, you can. There's two of them. There's also, I think, a 60 gigabyte card that's going to be announced as well in the coming days. So stay tuned for more information on that. It looks like you can almost shoot every format on the SD cards, apart from the 4K 120. You need to have the CF Express cards or a V90 card, I believe. If you want to shoot S&Q mode, I also believe you need the CF Express Type A cards. Apart from that, you can use your normal SD cards as long as they're rated fast enough, which is great. The other benefit of this too is, unlike the Canon, you can record to dual card slots on both of these, so you can back up the video from one card to the other. Now that is so important if you're a wedding videographer, because if you have a card that fails and you've shot a wedding, it's extremely dangerous. So to have that ability is really worth buying the camera for alone. And like I said, I don't understand why Canon haven't enabled that. They have given you, I think, on the R version, the R5, you can back up to both cards, but it's the video on one and then it's the proxy on another, which is useless. I mean, what's the point of that? So this is way better. In fact, this gets even better, because if you attach this to an Atmos V, you can record to the Atmos as well as recording to both cards at the same time as well. I mean, how much has Sony looked after you in that regard? Like, it is brilliant. It really is brilliant. The stabilization here, highly accurate image stabilization unit, and it's got the gyro sensor provided. So it has got that gyro, which gives you that optical, that extra sort of active stabilization. Now, Peter Lindgren put up a video. I hope Peter doesn't mind me showing this. I'll put all the links down below from the videos that I'm showing down here. But Peter has shown a video here where he shows the active and the normal stabilization. Let me show you that. So what he's going to be doing, I just kept the audio off. I thought I wouldn't share his audio. But he's showing the thing here. You can see on the left-hand side, the steady shot's off. On the right-hand side, it's IBIS only. And on the next image that he'll start to bring up, he'll bring the active stabilization on, and it is way better than what you can see before. And this is what happens. You can see it's IBIS only on the left-hand side, and the right-hand side, it's got the digital and the IBIS on, which is the active stabilization. So this is using exactly the same thing like you're looking at with the ZV-1, which is a big improvement. Yes, there's a slight crop. I think, what is it, a 10% crop or something? I can't remember. So that is amazing in itself. And I love using the ZV-1 active stabilization because it does make a difference. And now that you've also got that on the Sony cameras, it really has made an improvement there. So that's a great feature. You can also I'm not sure whether that will do it in camera or whether you have to take it into the software that you take it into, and you can add that stabilization later on. I know it does have it must do it in camera because it did have the active setting there, so you can do it. If you didn't want to do that, you could turn that off, and then you could do it later on in the software that Sony provides as well. Thanks, Brett. It is a 10% crop. So that's something that you can think about. You could keep the active stabilization off and then add it later on in post if you wanted to, and then determine the crop. That lets you sort of choose that crop that you've got there as well. So that's a great feature. Just seeing what this says here. New active mode, that's what I was just talking about. Provides increased stabilization for movie shooting, preserve image quality. It accurately measures the camera shake and compensates optically. This makes video possible even while hand holding. Now, it would make a difference definitely when you're hand holding it. I'm not saying you don't have to use a gimbal, but if you're using it, I'm just laughing at Tony, says it's got your name on it, David. I know. It really is beautiful if you're just sort of doing some stuff very quickly, and that's what I found with the ZV-1. The advanced operability, they've called it, it does now have a touch screen. And I was going to show, let me just show you Jared's. So this is Jared Polin's. Again, I will show this down. I'll leave the links to Jared's video down below so you can watch the full video. But let me just show you this so you can see how good the touch screen is. So you can see he's scrolling through there. And then he talks about it. Then he also shows how you've got other features, like you can change the ISO. You can also change things like, I'm not sure whether he shows it a little bit further on. No, he doesn't. But he also showed things like being able to touch, I think it was Jared, or it might have even been Peter, it was one of them, where you can touch the volume control. You can move that up and down with it as well. The only thing mentioned was that you had to press the FM button first, which was a bit of a bummer, and Sony perhaps in firmware may be able to change that so you don't have to press the FN button to get to those sort of features that are in that menu. Yeah, they may get to like it could be with the GH5 or something where you could click on it and then all the other menus come up. But the touch interface looks really nice, and the new menus look outstanding. They really do. So let me keep scrolling down here. Let's see what else they've got. You've got the fast hybrid. Well, it does your 10 frames per second stills and also electronic. Now, seeing that there's no rolling shutter on the video, you might find that the rolling shutter on this is actually very, very good. The problem with most cameras that have electronic stabilization like the a7 III or even the a7R4, if you use the electronic shutter, it's compromised because you get terrible rolling shutter. If something moves, it looks awful. You're probably not going to get that here. Now, I haven't seen anyone mention that, but I think because of the fact you've got the much better processor and you've also got, it's only 12 megapixel, I think the silent shutter in this might be very, very usable. So that could be one great feature. Now, remember, if you're shooting a wedding and you're doing a ceremony, 12 megapixels is usually ample. The only time, and this is where I'm trying to say to you that you still need two cameras, because I would not shoot formals with a 12 megapixel sensor now. I would want something that's much larger, like, you know, your 24 megapixel or you know, your a7R4, which is your 60 megapixel. So that's something to consider. But if you're shooting something like your formal, your wedding reception, your ceremony, things where really they only ever put things in a wedding album and fairly small, or things like that, you could shoot 12 megapixels easily. So as a camera that you could want to shoot silently, this really could be an incredible camera that you could shoot in churches. Remember, the ISO is going to be nuts in this camera. So to have this camera as a backup where you could shoot the wedding ceremony, the reception in incredibly low light, dead silent, could be a really great tool that I haven't heard anyone talk about yet. So that's one really interesting thing that should be mentioned. The AF does basically cover the whole screen. I think it's 93% or something of the whole screen. It basically covers everything that's there. Real-time tracking is there, the same as what the A9 and the A7R4 has. So the real-time tracking, I think, will work wonderfully from everything that I've seen so far. Is there anything else I need to show on this? Just the screen looks terrific. Your angle of that screen looks like it could be really beautiful. It's the same as the ZV-1. Hoping the A7 IV has this now. You can sort of see there where it's showing the screen in use. And they're just showing the accessories just down here as well. So the dimensions, just to let you know, it's 96.9 millimeters or 3.78 inches high, and it's 128.9 millimeters wide, and it's 80.8 millimeters in the width that way as well. And that's about it for that. Now, before we go to answering all your questions, I just wanted to take you through some of these because it might answer a lot of questions that people have. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I thought I'd go through some of them because it might be interesting to have a look at this, because it talks about things like this. Now, it's saying here, why is the resolution so low? And they've basically said here, they use the lower resolution sensor offers many benefits. Large photo size pixels delivers dramatically improved low light performance. And this is why I'm saying this is why Sony have stuck with that 12 megapixel sensor, because it certainly gives you unbeatable low light performance. And it also says here, lower resolution means less data for faster performance in all modes. And 12 megapixels specifically supports 4K video, 1:1 pixel readout for eliminating artifacts such as moire. There's no anti-aliasing filter on this as well, so that's also fantastic. The other thing you've got to consider here too is, like I've said, the 1080p video in this is going to be way better than all the other cameras that are out there. It will be much better than what the R5, what the R6 has, because it doesn't have to do that downsampling to get you that 1080p. And that's one really great feature about this. Like I said, from the footage that I've seen compared to the A7 III to this, the 1080p footage looks unbelievable with this camera. So if you are shooting 1080p, this is going to be a great camera. It just talks about what does backside illuminator mean. I'm not going to read all of this, but there's some important things. It does have a new a new format for your stills, which is this HEIF. Now that is really important because that's also what Apple uses as a selection too. It's their default algorithm for photos. It's a much better compression format for JPEG than JPEG. It's similar to JPEG, but it gives you much nicer footage, and it also gives you much smaller files. So this is a great feature now that Sony have added into their into this camera. So I would certainly be choosing HEIF as the format that I would choose if I was shooting JPEG for sure. It's great. It said other benefits of HEIF over standard JPEGs are that they can support 10-bit 422 color. See, JPEG is 8-bit. So if you're going to shoot in HEIF, you're going to get 10-bit 422 color against JPEG's 8-bit. So you're going to get much nicer much nicer images out of this with better compression. So that's something else that you have to consider as well. Low light performance. It says older A7S models had spectacular low light performance. How does the A7S III compare? And it's saying here that it's likely at least a stop improvement. That is huge when you're talking about how good the A7S II was. It's nuts. It will go up to 109,600. I believe the native ISO is 109,000 or something like that. I can't remember the exact number, but the native ISO goes up to 109,000 or something. Dynamic range. It's saying here for stills, the camera offers 14 stops of dynamic range. In video with S-Log2 and S-Log3, you can actually see this improve to 15 stops. Now, another thing that you've got to consider here too is that HLG now really for the first time is going to be usable in this camera. It was usable before, but because it was only 8-bit, there was a issue with grading it. So for the first time, HLG is going to be usable through the whole spectrum of what you've got in this camera. So for all of your 4K footage up to 120p, HLG is going to be usable. And that's amazing because you're now going to have 10-bit footage nuts. I mean, it really is nuts. Let's keep going. So you're now saying 14 stops of dynamic range, 15 stops if you're dealing with S-Log2 and S-Log3. The readout is 8 times faster, and rolling shutter has basically been eliminated. And I've seen that by the guys that have done their reviews, and it really looks incredible. Continuous shooting speed, like I said, I think this is even going to be better than what we're talking about before, because I've thought about the rolling shutter aspect. 10 frames per second, mechanical and electronic. You can have 1,000 uncompressed raw images in a single sequence. And it does have silent shooting. Yep. It says photographers can use the electronic shutter that is completely silent. And I've got a feeling it's going to be A9 quality type stills images. So, like I said, no one's mentioning that at this stage. Someone will probably now look at it. But I think that is going to be incredible. No rolling shutter at all. It could be groundbreaking for wedding photographers for shooting indoors under low light. The native ISO range, oh, there you go. The native ISO range of this camera is 80. So they've taken it down from 100. And it goes up to 102,400. So that's your native ISO range, which is nuts. This can be extended to 40 to 409,600. Unbelievable. It's got the active stabilization as well, which is great. Just seeing if there's other thing. It says, does it use pixel binning or other methods to create 4K? And this is the advantage with this 12K sensor. The unique 12 megapixel sensor has full 1-to-1 pixel readout for 4K recording, so no pixel binning required. This is why it's going to be so good in that regards, and also why the camera will not overheat, or you'll get minimal overheating. One issue though is it won't have Super 35 mode. And that's one of the issues. If you want Super 35, you're going to have to record in 1080p. But remember, the 1080p footage in this is beautiful, so it's not going to be an issue. So if you do want to use Super 35 and clear image zoom, you're going to have to use Super 35. What else? It doesn't support DCI resolutions or true 24 frames per second. You really, if you want that, you really have to go to Blackmagic or to Panasonic to like the GH5. They just don't support that. May come with a firmware upgrade, I'm not sure, but we haven't got that at this stage. Slow motion, it can record the 4K. The A7S can record up to 120p for 5 times slow motion on a 24p timeline, and full HD. Get a load of this. You can do 240 frames per second in S&Q mode. That is nuts. Like I said, for videographers, this thing is crazy. Frame rates, you've got 24, 30, 60p and 120p, and PAL mode will unlock 25p, 50 and 100. There is a 1.1 times crop in 4K 120. Bit depth, you've got 10-bit 422 recording internally up to 4K 120. No recording limits. Again, that's a massive bonus over something like what the Canon have given, because a Canon is limited to 30 minutes. Sony, no time recording limits at all. That's fantastic. No support for anamorphic. Well, I didn't expect that anyway. You'd have to use something like the Ninja V or something like that. Oh, I mean, guys, this has full-size HDMI output. I cannot tell you how happy that makes me. To see that is unbelievable. To have a full-size HDMI instead of that horrible micro HDMI, which I've wrecked so many of them. I think I've had to replace 3 Ninja V leads due to the fact that breaks. And they're expensive. To get good 4K leads is quite expensive. And I've had 3 that have failed. And I've also known a lot of people that have issues too with even the port. They've had a port damage due to that lead. The full-size HDMI, this, is unbelievable to have that size lead as compared to that crappy... Have I got one? That crappy one that you have that's the micro HDMI is the worst thing ever. So to have that just for stability, it means you don't have to start thinking about having devices on cages to lock that in, because the problem is these lock in, these don't fall out. Your normal micro HDMIs fall out that easy. They wobble. I'm always having even trouble with the A6400 that I've got, where it comes out and I have to reposition it back in again. You never ever get that with the full HDMI. So thank you, Sony, so much for adding that. That feature alone is worth money. Raw details, it will shoot RAW, but you have to go external. For RAW video, you'll have to use the full-size HDMI output. It will send RAW 16-bit 4K signals up to 60p to external recorder. I don't think that is a problem at all, not having internal RAW. The file sizes are going to be so big that I really think the beauty here is that you can go to your Ninja V, record the 4K signal up to 60p, which is enough. 4K RAW there, and you can back those files up onto the internal cards on your Sony camera. So you're getting your normal 4K 60 on your camera. How brilliant is that from Sony to give you that ability? So you're getting 3 files at once. You're getting 2 on the camera and 1 into your Ninja V. Good on Sony for doing that. That is fantastic. It says at launch, only the Atmos has announced the upcoming support for the A7S III with their Ninja V. And I got an email today, actually, from Ninja to say that I don't know if it was available. I know I got an update to say that was coming. The other thing, too, is that it's going to use ProRes RAW, which is going to be really nice to edit. The other thing, too, that you've got to understand, too, is if you've watched any of the videos, actually, it was Peter mentioned it. Peter Lindgren said that he had a lot of issues editing the footage on his Macs. And if you'd watched Max Urav, he also said that the Canon's was basically uneditable. You couldn't edit it, the footage. And since then, Max has put out a video that stated that it was because of the 422. You need specific hardware to be able to edit the 422 effectively. Now, in fact, he showed it working on an iPad, which was really interesting because he had the iPad Pro and he showed it working on the iPad. But the problem is, I don't think you've got the options in the Canon to shoot any other way than that 422. Whereas, now someone might be able to tell me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But with the Sony, you can shoot 420. The beauty is with every single format you're choosing, you can change what you want to shoot. So you could shoot 420 and that will edit okay on all of the computers that are out there because it's not having that 422 problem that you've got. So having that ability is great. But you have got All-I that's available as well. So you've got all the high-end formats that you can choose as well. Let me just keep going down here. Rolling shutter, they're saying, is completely almost non-existent. You've got the 759-point phase detection. AF system will work in video in every single video mode. That is brilliant. And also audio in up to the 4K 120 is also fantastic. You've got the real-time tracking. IAF has been added in the A7S III. Also the touchscreen, it does the IAF in the video as well. You've got the video tracking. It's unbelievable. You can also do vertical video as well, they're saying. So you can, if you want to do video for Instagram and stuff like that, you can do vertical videos as well. It's saying here, and this is important, are there warnings about overheating? And it says Sony has implemented a new passive heat management system that seems effective. They have publicly stated that this system will permit recording over an hour straight at 4K 60. This is why I think that those guys that are having issues are not enabling that overheating function menu. It also has new codecs as well, or formats. It's got this new XAV-CHS and XAV-CS. They're the ones that have the compression built in, and then it has these really high codecs like this a7siii is a brand new interframe codec for consistent performance and quality bit rates up to 600 megabits a second. I mean, whoa. I mean, I'll probably be using the 200 megabits a second format because the 600 megabits is nuts, but to have that ability to shoot up to 600 megabits a second in 10-bit RAW, in 10-bit 422, I mean, whoo, I'm going to need a new computer. It does say here, when you record slow motion, will sound be recorded? And it says yes for basic up to 120p. But if you're doing sound, the slow, the S&Q mode doesn't have sound. But that's understandable. I never used to use S&Q because the quality suffers. But apparently in this new camera, the S&Q mode, the quality is excellent. So that's fantastic. Like I said too, it's going to support HDR, and I think you're going to find it's going to be amazing compared to these previous Sony cameras because you've now got 10-bit 422. Native ISO is now 640, so they've dropped that way down, and you can even go to ISO 160 if you need to. Again, it's brilliant. What else? Is there a headphone jack? Yes, there is. I just noticed someone mentioned the A7R review. David hurt my feelings by not doing his promised follow-up. I know I never did that follow-up to the A7R video camera. I might do that, guys, eventually. I still have got all the images. I should do it. Let me just check too down here. The audio, I believe, too, has been upgraded because they're saying here there's two audio solutions. It supports XLR K3M, and it can record 24-bit audio, which is improved over the 16-bit in previous cameras. Oh, thank you so much for that donation. M. Cubrio said, thank you for sharing the information with everyone all the time, David. As always, very informative. Thank you so much, mate. Really appreciate that donation. Just gave it to me there. Let me just show you. So thank you so much for that. Full-size HDMI, nuts. I mean, Sony, I just can't thank you enough for doing that. Let me just see what else. Oh, there's some other things too, which are great too. Will autofocus work when using HDMI? Yes, full autofocus works with all HDMI modes, and it will also output to the screen, so you can see both screens simultaneously. So you can see the back screen as well as the Ninja V screen or whatever monitor you're using. It says here, can I use the camera screen while outputting video over HDMI? Yes, the built-in screen and HDMI output can be used simultaneously. So that's great as well. You can't do 4K 120 yet though. I'm just seeing if there's anything else. Oh, well, there you go. It says, can I use a battery grip? Yes, the camera will work with the VG C4EM battery grip, so that's the same as the A7R4. So that's great. No built-in ND. That was a bit of a disappointment. I was hoping that Sony would have done that. No dual native ISO. I don't think they need it. The ISO is superb, and they're saying that the low light performance is superb. So I don't think it needed that dual native ISO. They're saying, will it be Netflix or BBC certified? They're saying, well, they don't know at this stage. Viewfinder, I wanted to just talk about this quickly. Let me just show you this because the viewfinder is nuts. Tony Northrup, and like I said, I'll share these down below, played this. Let me play this for you. Tony Northrup showed this, and he said he could see the comet through the EVF. He said he could not see that comet with the naked eye. But once he used the EVF, he said he could use it. And in fact, he said it looks like it's looking through a window. It is that good. The EVF is brilliant. And he said to be able to see that is astounding. He said it was unbelievably sharp, incredible for using in low light. In fact, he said it was like almost cheating. He said it was like using night vision. He said it was that good. So the EVF, that 9.44 million dot EVF is definitely a massive bonus, I believe, if you're going to use this, particularly in low light scenarios. You can use external support, battery support to charge this up. And apparently, because it uses that new USB-C, it charges a lot faster. Let me keep going down. Dedicated record button up the top, which they're not showing. I'm just seeing if they're showing anything else. It does have that. There's no GPS built in, and that's about it. Let me just check Sony Alpha Rumors, though. Let me just, because I just wanted to show the new menus. Let me go here. I just want to see if there's anything on there quickly before we... I noticed Gerald Undone too has said that it's a technical masterpiece. So he's said on there that it's a technical masterpiece. He was the one I think that was saying he's going to order 2. Let me just scroll down because I just wanted to see if I can find the menus for you. There's stacks and stacks of review videos that you're going to be able to watch now. Like I said, I'd recommend Peter's particularly. Peter's is amazing. Like I said, Tony Northrup did a really nice balanced review as well. Where was the menus? I just wanted to see if I could quickly find the menus. If I can't, I'm just going to go through it. Let me go to page 2. Oh, here, yep. So you can sort of see the menu settings here. The menus look completely different. So they really are different now. Separate between... video and still. So when you're in the video mode, you'll only see the video functions. When you're in the still mode, you'll only see the still mode. And in fact, when you click on the icons, they're sort of split, and you can see the sort of tree on the other side. So you get to see the full functions on the other side as well. So they're great. Another video I recommend too is Jared Polin's. I thought that was a very nice balanced review as well. So I don't know whether I'm going to be able to go through all the questions because they're so crazy. Like we've had 20 million questions through here. I'll just have a quick look and just see. I'm not going to scroll back because you've all been talking away. Let me know now if you've got any questions. Put them in the chat now while I just summarise up, and I'll sort of go through that. Also, leave any questions down below as well. Because I will answer them. I always answer every question that comes through there. So to sum up, I'll come back in a minute just to see if anyone's put any questions there that they'd like answered. I suppose all of you have been talking about it in the live chat anyway. To sum up, I think Sony really have done a fantastic job. I mean, I really do think they've answered everything there that they need to answer. I don't think 8K is needed at the moment, so I think not having 8K is not going to be an issue. In fact, it might be an advantage because the camera doesn't overheat. I'm not saying the Canon cameras are bad at all. I think the Canon cameras are amazing, and I really do think that the EOS R5 and the R6 are amazing. But I was thinking at the time I might go and get an R5 or an R6, but this certainly now has changed my mind. There's no way now I'm going to be going out and buying one of those cameras after I've seen what the A7S can do. This fits totally down what I need to have. Yeah, there is new cars in the reader. I did discuss it, Mark, but only briefly. I sort of showed them for a second. You might have missed that. I showed that through B&H, how they've got that. So I did sort of mention it. Having the ability to back up your dual slots, to me, is a really important feature which Canon don't offer you. Having that ability to go to your Ninja and still back up to those dual cards also is an amazing feature. Having the full-size HDMI also is great. No time limit on the camera at all, which is really important. Having that ability to not have any overheating or any that you would have to worry about. If it does overheat, the camera's not going to be locked down for that long. It will work again after a period of time. I think the people that probably had those issues overheating probably didn't turn that function on, and that's probably why they had those issues. Or due to the fact that they're pre-release versions, there could still be some issues with those cameras that they've got. I'm confident that Sony have said that these cameras will work without the overheating for that 60 minutes. I'm confident that they won't have that issue. It certainly was a worry when I read that people that were taking photos with the Canon R5 went for an hour taking photos and then they couldn't take any video footage at all, and that was just with taking photos. So that really is an issue for me working that way. Low light is going to be unbeatable. This will be the new low light king. It certainly will be unbeatable. There's some other issues too that I'm thinking The 12 megapixel sensor on this camera might be groundbreaking in the fact that there's not going to be any rolling shutter at all. And that's, like I said, no one has thought about that. So if you did have to work in a church with a low light environment or a reception, or doing any photography that's in low light, you're probably going to be able to get outstanding images without adding any external lighting at all. And you haven't got to worry about the rolling shutter aspect as well. So I think it's incredible. I mean, what's it rating? I picked the price and I was right. I said 3,500. It came in at 3,499, something like that, USA. It's going to be it was $5,999 or something Australian. So it's pretty expensive out here. But like I said, I will be getting this camera or the A7 IV that I think I'm still picking, maybe announced before the end of the year, I'm hoping. The only thing here is Sony haven't answered the R6, and that's why I think the A4 will be announced, because that's a camera that Sony still haven't announced or combated at this stage. But boy, if you're happy with the 12 megapixel and you can use that for an awful lot of images, this camera is amazing. And like I said, I wouldn't, if this was released at the start of the year where I had money before all the lockdown, I would have bought this. This would have been on pre-purchase now. But at this stage, I'm going to wait till the end of the year at least, to see if the A4 is announced, and then make a decision about which one I get. In fact, I may just buy both. It might just depend. But boy, have Sony done an absolute incredible job, and I'd like to congratulate them for doing that. And like I've always said to you guys, that if Sony do the wrong thing, I blast them, and I have done that before. The only thing really that I'm disappointed on in this camera is the screen at the back. It's half the resolution of the R5. And that, to me, is, I think Sony could have done better with the screen at the back. But you've got an incredible EVF there that's better than anything else. And I'm not going to slam Sony for doing that, because at least they've given us all the touch screen. They've given us the touch interface now. So I really have to commend Sony for what they've done here. And congratulations, Sony. The people that have got it on order, I'm jealous. I really am. I'd love to sort of have this on pre-order now. I just can't justify it with my business at the moment. But I will get it I will get it sooner or later. But I'm certainly sort of tossing between that and the A4 whenever that's announced. So let me just quickly go through some of these last questions. I did mention the card that were issued. I showed that in B&H before. There will be new card readers, obviously, yes, for those CF Express, the A cards. By the way, too, I'd love it I will put links down below if you'd like to pre-order this. I'd love it if you could pre-order it through me. I mean, at least I'll get a bit of a kickback from that. So if you haven't pre-ordered it yet and you're thinking about it, I will put the links in the bottom of this. Once it's finished, I'll stick links in. But let me just see what everyone else is saying. Inder Brown said, very doubtful the A7 IV gets the full-size HDMI out. Yeah, look, I think they will leave things out. I definitely think it will shoot 4K 60, and I would hope that they will also now give the touch screen. I think that will now be the norm. The touch screen and also the flip-out screen, I think you'll get. I probably agree with you. They'll have to give you differences for the A4, and I think you're right. There will be some differences. I think we'll be linked to 4K 60. You may have the micro HDMI, and obviously you won't get the bit depths that you've got with the A7S, and that also, remember, you're dealing with a larger pixel density as well. What are your thoughts on the 1DX3? Originally one of the R5, R6, but the overheating is troubling since I do wedding videography. I do hybrid. That's a great camera. Yeah, the 1DX Mark III is a great camera. What else? I ordered the MRWG2 with a pair of CF Express A's. Oh, cool. What else have we got? Do you think the A7S can possibly get Netflix approved? I'm not sure yet. We'll have to wait and see. Haha, told you, David, you were going to buy one. Let me just bring this back so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Now I'm thinking I should go with a 12 megapixel, the A7S. You're thinking about it, Aaron, are you? Hope you're okay, because Aaron was going to do this live with me today, but he had a hurricane alert over there and he was having power issues, so he couldn't do it with me. Where were we? If you want 12 megapixels, I will use my phone. 12 megapixels is not nowhere near as bad as you think, though. Like I said, I used to shoot weddings with that, though. I used to do weddings with the D3S, 12 megapixels, and I had great results. You can do 8 by 12 really easily with a 12 megapixel, so don't discount it. What else? Aaron said, laugh out loud, I still have my Sony gear. That's right, you do, Aaron. You could switch back to Sony again. Still has rolling shutter, but very little rolling shutter. From what I've seen this morning through the reviews, it's minimal, where I wouldn't worry about it. Just talking about saying this camera is for videographers. Yeah, it is. David, you need a dedicated video cam. The reviews show rolling shutter is still there. Well, the rolling shutter that I've seen, Minolta Man, is not even worth worrying about at all. Which has with the IBIS, wish the IBIS was as good as the R5. Yeah, it's not. Look, from what I've seen this morning, the IBIS is not as good. But having said that, the warping on the R5 does my head in. The warping on that camera, the Canon's, is the worst that I've seen. I'm hoping that Canon can fix that, Greg. But even Tony Northrup, he said, I think this morning when he was doing his review, he was shooting the Sony review, he was using it might have been the R5 or the R6, I don't know. But the warping on the edges, he even made a comment about it in the comments. The warping is really bad. Hang said, I've been trying to get David to see the potential dual ISO since the beginning of the show. Laugh out loud. Where were we? Yeah, the change in the selector dial, you can now go from movie to your photography is one stop away. That's a good point, Mark. Sorry if I've missed things, guys. There's been so many people put questions in today. I have missed a stack out there, so I'm sorry if I have missed questions. Obviously there was some about the dual ISO that I've missed. Jason said they were like this. Okay, slap the EVF onto, I'm not sure what that was about. It's probably going to be something else. Going to be hard-pressed to find a better camera for video. Yep, I don't think you will. Yep, Sony had this in their back pocket for the right time. I agree, Aaron. I think they did, that's for sure. Future A7 IV will probably give us 6K 30. I wish they would introduce an ND filter. I wish that came in too, but they probably want to make a difference between their cinema cameras, I would say. The larger pictures are the trick, yep. Best ISO, low light. You're going to get that because of those pixel density. Aaron said, I did many wedding and magazines with 60 megapixels. Yeah, it's better than 12, but 16 was micro four thirds. Ike said, when you realise you've been waiting 5 years for Sony to release another 4K camera, you mean to tell me they couldn't have released these specs back in 2018? Maybe not, though. They might have not had the processing power, though, Ike. He used the R6, did he? Yeah, well, the warping, yeah, it's not good on those Canon cameras. The warping is bad. Brett said, stop stressing about 12 megapixels for stills. It's not a problem for general photography. If you're a landscape photographer, use the A7R4. Exactly. Aaron said, I had the A7S and used it for photos. 12 megapixel was fine. And Ali said, do you think it has surpassed? I think it has, yes. The things that have surpassed the expectations for me, the EVF, no overheating up to 4K 120, that's nuts. The massive bit rates that they've given us, the large size HDMI port, the active stabilization. I mean, you could just keep going on and on and on. I think they have definitely surpassed expectations. I really think Sony have done a great job here. I really do. And guys, you know me. If I think Sony had held back, I would slam them. You know me. And I don't think they have at all. I think this is a brilliant release. And like I said, if this was out early in the year before the lockdown, I would have bought this in a heartbeat. Sony almost got me today, but I'm going to stick with the R5. Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, you've got to make a decision on that yourself. There's the new color profile from Venice hasn't appeared, though. That's one disappointment. Forgot to mention that. It hasn't appeared. Whether Sony give that as a firmware update, keep your fingers crossed, but they haven't given it. But they certainly have said they've improved the color. Like I've mentioned to you before, that the ZV-1 that I have has the best skin color that I've ever seen on a Sony camera. So I'm sure the a7S III is going to have that or even bettered it. So I think that the color issues are not going to be there. I think it's going to be terrific. I just wish they did put that Venice color science in. It would have helped people, particularly that had an FX9 that wanted to sort of use this as a B cam. But the colors might match with what they've done with the color, the new sort of color science anyway. But it's going to be interesting. But they definitely didn't put that new cine tone in there. Ike said 12 megapixel is fine for photos, just not very flexible for 2020. Yeah, you can't crop. That's the thing. You've got to understand, if you're going to use 12 megapixels, crop in camera. Have it at the correct cropping when you shoot. Elliot said, in a few years, Camera Conspiracy is going to be out of business. We just need much better IBIS ND filter and 12K. And Nick said the ZV-1 is pretty good. Yet the color on the ZV-1 is absolutely amazing. So thank you so much, everyone, for today. Now, depending on what's announced during the week, I may not do the Friday show. If there's nothing really announced apart from what we've got today, I might skip Friday live and do next week. It just depends if there's enough sort of rumors and stuff like that to talk about. So I'll see if there's enough things to talk about what people are saying about the A7S. I might pop on for a live Q&A or something like that. But I'll see. At this stage, sort of today was the live show for this week, due to the fact that, I've given so much information. And now that this is released, there may not be much rumors and stuff like that that's going to be announced in the coming days. So, yes, Sony did bring back a smile on my face. They definitely have. So apart from that, guys, thank you so much. Love it if you could give me a thumbs up, because it does make a difference to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because, I am a real working photographer. Unlike a lot of other YouTubers out there, I'm like Ike. I run a full-time business as well as do this. So any support you can give me, I would really appreciate. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. I don't say that very often, like in words. I put it usually on videos, but I haven't sort of mentioned that before. And apart from that, like I said, if you want to pre-order it, I will stick the link in. If you haven't pre-ordered from B&H, I'll stick that in after I've done this video. It'll take me a few minutes to organise it all. Thanks. Hopefully the guys don't mind me showing those videos that I showed, those quick clips. Like I said, I'll stick those links down below too, so you can watch those if you haven't watched them. Apart from that, everyone, I'll see you all in the next show. The next show may be live with Aaron next week, as long as he doesn't have a hurricane or something. Thank you, everyone, for saying such a great show. Catch you all in the next show, everyone. Bye for now.